gas. And who benefits? Think about it. Who really benefits in this country? It's not the ordinary middleman, the citizen. It's really the upper echelon, It's really the NGC board of directors. They are the ones benefiting. It's the Malcolm Jones and them who are benefiting. The Ken Julian. They are the ones who are benefiting. Not the ordinary man on the street who they beg for every election. That benefiting, Now, property tax. Who does this tax benefit and who does the tax go to? Well, according to the law, this tax is collected by central government and it goes into the consolidated fund. So while other countries, they have a structure where property tax will be collected and given to the local government bodies, so for example, different various municipal corporations. That doesn't happen in Trinidad and Tobago. That property tax goes into the big pot of money. And that property tax is not going to help your flooding problem. It's not going to fix the bridge in front of your house. When you pay it, it's not going to clean the drain. That property tax is going towards maintaining the Prime Minister's residence in St. Anne's, not the hospital, and the one in Tobago. It's also going towards paying the rent for the Attorney General. It's going towards maintaining golf courses in this country. It's not going towards your community. Because we have seen when they had money, there was still neglect, and now there's reduced revenue, and there will even be more neglect, especially to various areas in Trinidad and Tobago. And MP Tanku rightfully pointed out that they have engaged in geographic discrimination. So persons are struggling to buy food, pay rent. How are they going to pay this tax? And the last issue I want to raise is that who is liable to pay the tax? In 2018, they came to amend the law, and when they amended the law in such a way that not only owners of land pay tax, squatters will be required to pay tax. The legal owners will be required to pay tax. If you have a mortgage, you will still be required to pay the tax. If you have a HDC house, you will still be required to pay the tax. If, for example, you have leased lands and somebody built on that land, the landowner will be liable to pay that tax. So nobody is getting away from this property tax. So we in the opposition, we are calling on the government to indemnify the citizens from paying property tax. You must ask the tax now. You cannot continue to burden the population because of your bad, incompetent, and corrupt management of the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you very much. Hi, morning, Charlie.
Hi, how are you?
Not too bad. Glad you could make it.
So I was looking on earlier on when Mr. Tonku was speaking, and you mentioned the UNC mounting a legal challenge the first time around. Is there going to be anything done this time?
I could take that question. Currently, I did mention the judgment that Justice Wilson would have delivered in the High Court. That judgment has been subsequently appealed. That appeal is still pending before the Court of Appeal of Trinidad and Tobago, which is a very interesting question that you would raise, and I'm glad that you raised it, is that there's still a legal challenge being mounted on whether or not these forms are to be submitted voluntarily, and this matter is yet to be decided by the Court of Appeal, yet the Minister of Finance is out here rushing, asking persons to join him in this exercise to collect property tax, while the matter is still before the Court of Appeal of Trinidad and Tobago.
Now, seeing that this notice came with notice that there is a $5,000 fine if they don't fulfill the requirements, what are you advising your supporters and your followers to do?
We're advising the government to stop collecting property tax. That is what we are advising the government to do, because you cannot continue to burden the population, especially when we are sitting in the middle of a pandemic that has caused massive job loss, coupled and compounded with the fact of the economic mismanagement of Minister Imbert and that government of over 100,000 jobs being lost in the last 5 years. And now we're coming and asking for citizens. So we're calling on the government to stop this property tax. We need to completely stop it.
And what advice do you have for your supporters as it pertains to this?
If I may. The advice we have for our supporters, just like the advice we have for the rest of the population, is to join us in talking to the government, in calling the minister and the government and telling them that this action of theirs is immoral, unjust, and unethical. That's what we want the population to come to the conclusion to do, that it is in their interest of for prosecuting the minister to get him to indemnify the population of Trinidad and Tobago against this property tax.
And I don't know which one of you will be able to answer this question, but we saw a release from the opposition, I think it was either this morning or last night, saying that the party will no longer be doing any interviews on our morning brew show because of our new host, Mr. Williams. But what I want to find out is how is Mr. Williams different from Mr. Allen, who is also a former candidate and has his own program?
I think that matter was adequately dealt with in the press release itself. And as time goes along, we'll provide more information and more support to bolster our views as to how we think that this matter should have been dealt with.
How is he different from Mr. Tiwari, who now has his own morning talk show program as well? Dr. Tiwari?
I think, to be quite frank, both Mr. Allen and Mr. Tiwari have their own programs. What this is a program funded and supported by CNC3 itself. But like I said, these circumstances are not the same, they are completely different, but more on that will come out as we roll out our issues.
I'll be very interested in hearing Mr. Williams' position on the property tax.
So it's a difference not of the host, it's a difference of the host company? Is that what you're saying? Because you said Mr. Allen and Dr. Tiwari, they have their own shows, and Mr. Williams, his show is funded by CNC3. So is it something to do with CNC3?
I appreciate the effort, but like I said, more on that will come forward. We want to focus a little bit more on the property tax issues that are before us today.
Do you think it's wise in the midst of a pandemic, when we have so many different issues, rising food prices, climate change, and all that brings with it, now the property tax, as you all are saying, to cut off a certain part of the audience of the country by refusing to deal with one media house?
I think property tax is the critical issue facing every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago today, and therefore it is the critical issue that we are raising and dealing with today.
No, but I asked you, do you think it's wise to cut off a certain segment of audience by not participating with one certain media house?
We have a live stream going on now that every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago can access free of charge, so that they can get the views of the opposition, and we welcome CNC3 and any other entity who is willing to engage us in this kind of circumstances, so that we can get our views across.
A question from Sean Della from Newsday. He said it stems from your concern about the elderly queuing for submitting forms. Can you say what feedback they are getting from constituents now having to pay regular income tax before the NT amnesty?
We have, quite frankly, there's a lot of panic going on now because citizens have to pay not just their income tax that they would have had outstanding. I think a lot of persons are going, in fact, to submit outstanding taxes, but we have citizens who are very worried about the property tax lines that they're going to have to face now. Plus, if you will recall, before the end of the year, these individuals, these very same individuals, also have to line up to change their currency for new currency. That's a requirement that the same Minister of Finance has also got. So this government has a tendency of ensuring that citizens line up, whether it is for vaccines or for changing currency, and now for dealing with property tax.
From Barrett Arisawa constituency side, I can say that my humbleness has grown exponentially, and now to impose this onerous tax on especially the older population who depend on $3,500 every month to survive on buying medication. Some of them pay rent to purchase food, to travel. I mean, I don't know where these persons or these individuals are going to get this money to pay this property tax, and their property is their life investment, and now they have to pay taxes on their life investment that they work so hard for to build and construct.
So you sacrifice to save, and then the government comes like a thief in the night and penalize you for saving money by your property.
One more question.
Sure.
We're speaking about the elderly, right?
Yeah.
Are you all going to be assisting anyone in filling out these forms?
The property tax form, I will be assisting citizens in calling for the government to stop this property tax.
I think I raised the numbers before that there are over 245,000 households, 25,000 small and medium-sized businesses, and 2,500 large businesses, all of whom are required under Minister Imber's direction and threat to complete these forms. That's a phenomenal undertaking. I said before that the time frame is illogical and impractical. Only Minister Finance Colin Booth, only he knows what's going on in his mind and why he's prosecuting people like this. But if there are no other questions, I want to thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, our viewing audience, members of the media. I want to thank you all very much for joining us here today. I look forward to seeing you all again. Be safe, everyone. Take care.